So, brother, if you're struggling to have conversations, or your conversations are always dry, always boring, I could help you, right? Because I was once there. So, if you're watching this video, there's a high chance you are an introvert, just like I am. You enjoy being by yourself. You hate small talks. I know this because, like I said, I was once in that situation, right? Sometimes you're just too lazy, right? And I kind of realized because I made a video yesterday talking about how, or rather, why you find it difficult to meet friends and everything. But it dawned on me that the real problem is that you have too many things going on in your head, right? You have too many things going on in your head. That is why you struggle to talk it out, right? But a couple of other reasons is that one, you have too many excuses in your head. If you have like 1,000 excuses on why you're not talking to people, why you find it difficult to strike conversations, like, oh, I don't know what to talk about, I hate small talks, I'm not attractive enough. Now, sometimes, speaking of attraction, sometimes your excuses might be valid. But one thing I'll tell you for sure is that even if your excuses are valid, if you just keep doing it, and this has always been my mindset when it came to people, right? And people showed me a lot. If you just keep doing it, at some point, you'll get good at it. And this is the same thing with content, right? When content creators talk about how your best content creator talks about how at first they didn't understand this content game, but at some point things clicked. I'm trying to tell you that if you stop those excuses in your head and just do it, or see your failure as attempts, it changes the game completely, right? So another reason is that you're always asking yourself, when I meet people, what do I see? What do I talk about? You are afraid of small talks, right? And this, again, is also an excuse in your head. Again, another reason you find it difficult to have conversations is, right, you lack experiences. You lack interest. You lack topics to talk about, which is actually also a real excuse. So how do you do that? Again, every time I tell you something, that every excuse you have in your head always has a solution. Bro, every excuse you have in your head also has a solution if it's a real problem. But if it doesn't have a solution, trust me, it's just in your head for being in your head sake. So if you're somebody who feels like, okay, whenever I approach people, I get rejected, I'll tell you, being attractive, right, helps with less rejection, right? If you don't know what to talk about, you need to have topics in your head to talk about. You need to have subjects, interests, experiences, stories, right, in your head. Again, another reason that you're not even relatable when you talk to people, right? Have you ever talked to somebody and the conversation sort of flows and he's giving you stories and just feels like you guys are bond, because people bond over stories. People bond over stories. That's because they have stories to tell. Now, you may be a bad storyteller, but the whole idea is you would always want to be relatable. Again, another reason you won't hate conversations is you hate small talks. You want to meet somebody, and before you know it, you are diving deep into some nerdy conversations. Because I was once there. I remember talking to this girl, right? And then while we are talking, in my mind, we're having a conversation. Until she said, mind you, this was like my university period. And she was like, you are a nerd. Like, and it's obvious. So I realized that while I was talking to her, I kept on having these awkward pauses, like, okay, what should I say next? What should I ask next? So the pauses were disrupting the conversation. We're heavily disrupting the conversation. So all these awkward pauses now, that does not mean that you should not have pauses in your conversations. No, sometimes you can be talking to a girl, right? Anybody, right? You can be talking to anybody and some random pauses just come around. And what I do in that situation, now, you don't have to do what I'm doing, right? You don't have to do it because the whole idea is that the more you do it, the more you find your pattern, because I've come to realize this. There's no one size fits all in this game. It is, you just have to experiment until you figure out what works, right? Whenever there's awkward pauses, one thing I do is I just look into her eyes, right? And then she's like, what? Again, it sparks curiosity in them. I just be like, just either I continue the conversation or I even use that chance to like digress completely, right? Just look into her eyes, I'm like, what is like, I'm seeing, just easy to tease. I really don't want to say what I say because trust me, I'm not in that mood at the moment. So it may come off as, I may just say, okay, I'm admiring your eyes because something in you is interesting. I can stare into your soul right now. And before you know, it's just from random stuff, right? I remember one stupid line that I said, and trust me, right? When you're in conversations, it doesn't have to be very, very perfect. In short, perfect conversations look scripted. That's why my videos are imperfect. I don't know, but one thing I aim for is authenticity. So I just said to her eyes, I was like, I feel we should get married right now. And before you know it, she begins to give me her family story. Family story was, I always tell people that if you're talking to girls, right, if you leave them to talk for long enough about themselves, which they like to do, guess what happens? They self snitch. So I know one thing for sure is if a woman has had family trauma, there is almost no way towards her going past platonic friendships. There's almost no way. Yeah, I've had girls discuss their trauma. Again, a lot of girls sometimes want to get too close, right? That's why I tell you, I have female friends. I don't keep them too close. I know some of them are looking for opportunities to get in, right? But I don't keep them too close. I keep that distance. So yeah, we're friends, and I treat my friends the same way I treat my female friends the same way I treat my male friends. At a distance. And but what should you really do, right? What really matters in the conversation? Different things, right? One, the start of the conversation. Starting is actually the most difficult part because if you can scale through that start, right? If you can scale through the start, it becomes easier. But one thing I'll tell you is you need a mindset shift, right? One mindset shift that I think you need is you need that mindset shift of we are already friends. So stop trying to be friends. Because when you're trying to be friends, I don't know if I'm passing the right message. When you're trying to be friends, one thing you realize is you have this friction, you have this jittering you're doing where your voice in your head is it's so loud, where you're breaking and you're kind of like stammering and shit. And that's where like, this is what happens if you're very, very nerdy, right? You're not used to it. So again, the start. So what should you do at the start? Genuine curiosity, right? Sometimes it's just having a sense of humor. Now, to be very honest, speaking of humor is very, very tricky, right? Because I have lost at first. I tell people that my jokes are pretty expensive, right? And my guys kind of know this, but one thing I've come to realize is I genuinely enjoy doing them. Does it hurt some people? Yes, it hurts some people. Sometimes it's about even me being authentic. Have I lost people to me being humorous? Yes, I've lost people, but I feel like one thing you should never do when it comes to conversations is never force compatibility. The moment you see that this person is not really compatible with you, right? Maybe you've seen that it's difficult to relate to this person or something. You don't have to force it. Maybe just end it there. Especially if it's a girl you're trying to date. To me, automatically, if you guys can't even hold like a serious conversations, guess what? You guys should end it there. You guys are not compatible. Don't force shit, right? And this is I speak about rejection because, like I said at the start, if you guys aren't compatible, end this quick, right? So humor, asking questions, sometimes dark humor though. Let me see. But what is most important, regardless of the approach you use, is just be present, literally speaking. And guess what? Do it as many times as possible. Talk to as many people as possible. Talk to guys, talk to girls, talk to rich people, talk to broke people. You see, the more you talk to people, the easier it is to have conversations. Again, talk to different kinds of people. I've seen way too many guys talk about, they talk to women. But when it comes to meeting new guys, it's obviously a problem. And I say, guy, you fucking need a brotherhood. If you can't relate with boys, then trust me, you're going to have a problem. Because, bro, girls aren't reliable. Nah. I was telling my guy that girls aren't that reliable. That means is, you may have her emotions today. She meets another guy who has like better buttons on her emotions. Bro, you're fucked. She doesn't send you anymore. Again, what should you do again is aim to become interesting. So why you're becoming interesting is you're letting the other person talk about them, right? You have interest, quite all right, but you are very curious about the other person's interests. Again, curiosity. So did I mention that you can use questions as a starter? Yes, you can use questions as a starter. Because when you question, you have to be genuinely curious, right? Because I remember one lady at the gym I approached. My opening statement was, I don't know if you didn't mind if I ask you a question. And she was like, oh yeah, sure, go ahead, ask me a question. I was like, I see you most of the time. I've noticed you for over a year, right? I see you most of the time with a very straight face. But in this gym, like I've also seen you with a very, very nice smile talking to people. Like, would you mind if I ask what's going on? And she's like, oh, she's actually a friendly person, but she just doesn't want people to misunderstand her and yada yada yada. But guess what? We talk a lot, right? When I say a lot is We now laugh at the gym on my camera. We play at the gym and stuff, right? Now, I don't want to like mention her name because if you, in the vlogs, those people that watch my vlogs obviously will know her, you know. So questions again. Talk about talk if you want to be interesting, be interested in the other person. Genuinely speaking, that's the hack to being interested, right? Make the other person feel like right now you're the most important person I'm talking to. You see, if you notice other people when they're having conversations, they're distracted with their phones and everything. But let this simple trick, right? If my phone is ringing, I'm talking to somebody and we are at the heat of the conversation, I'm like, don't worry, the phone can wait. It's all about you right now. I'm having a good moment right now talking to you because you feel like a very interesting person. Again, complimenting during the conversation is also very important, right? Then being relatable. Because when somebody talks about something, when someone talks about maybe politics, right? Or a certain kind of workout, or even jogging, right? That was a guy I was talking to. And I think I mentioned it, right? A tech bro who's not creating content, but is also stuck. So that whole idea of you're being relatable because you have a story to back up your relatability, trust me, keeps conversations going. This thing happens. Oh yeah, me too. I think I have this story, and before you know it, you guys kick it off. Again, if you want to be relatable, fucking have experiences. If you don't have experiences, at least, or maybe one thing that I think that can help, right, is being obsessed with knowledge. Right? If you're somebody who's obsessed with knowledge, again, you don't have to be an expert in so many topics. All you have to know is know a lot of things, right? Think in first principles and know how to connect dots together. If you can do that thing, trust me, you're a boss. You're very, very good in conversations already. You're already above 80% of men in conversations. If you know a lot of things and you connect a lot of dots, because one thing it does help, right, is when you're talking to people, it helps you even help them complete their statements because again, it builds your intuition into what they're about to say next. Because if you can help people, if you watch my podcast, right, you sometimes see me complete people's statements because I already know where they are going to. And this comes from practice. This comes from talking to people. This comes from gathering information, talking to people, gaining knowledge, right? So you can get knowledge from multiple things. You can get them from watching movies, from talking to people, from learning from people. Again, you need to have your curiosity. If you're not curious, bro, you're wasting your time. Because it's going to feel forced. Again, one thing to know about conversations is it should feel very natural. It should flow. It's not a thing that you feel forced, like the person is in a hostage. No. Let it flow, let it become natural. I'll tell you, as a man, one trick you should know is the more natural you can make things, the more attractive it is, the more confident you are seen, and the more serious you'll be taken. If you can make anything look natural, trust me, as a man, you'll be heavily respected for it. Now, one other thing that is very important in a conversation is knowing when to end it. Is know when to end it. You see, so ending is very important because sometimes if you let a conversation go on for too long, it says that you don't respect your time and you don't respect the other person's time, no matter how good you are in conversations. But what you want to do is have it at a very nice time and end it there. There are genuinely people who I have spoken to on the first time and we're speaking for 1 hour. The moment I see that we've gone 1 hour, I always find an exit plan. I remember recently in my vlogs, I was talking to this very new girl. Apparently she's a nerd, right? And the irony is, because of how we're talking about different topics, she just mentioned a formula in physics. And I was like, oh yeah, in your mind, it's Newton's second law of motion. And for she's like, oh, okay, I see. You're a very smart guy. And for we're talking about different, went to physics, chemistry, bringing it back to reality, bringing it back to organic chemistry. And before you know it, obviously our whole conversation did not bother around education and physics bands, but she just appreciated that she found a guy who is relatable. And something interesting happened because when we spoke for about slightly over an hour, I had to end the conversation because I had to be in bed. I know I kind of like slightly past my pre-bed time, but when I told her that, oh yeah, I wake up by 4 a.m. to work, by 4 a.m., she literally woke up and sent me a text. The reason I knew that is because the first thing I do when I wake up is check my phone for missed messages and missed calls. I know that goes against all your self-improvement goals, but when I go to bed, my phones are off. And one thing I've come to realize is a lot of the times because I sleep early, right? A lot of news comes in when I'm asleep, right? So I just turn on my phone, wait for like 5 minutes, look at the messages. Obviously, I can't respond because it's 4 a.m. I look at them and all right, nothing happened. Because I remember that's how I woke up one day and heard that somebody close to me had passed. But that actually wrecked my entire day because I had to wait till about 5 a.m., 5:30 before I could hit the road. But again, my phone goes off at night, so that's the point. But sorry, by 4 a.m., she had texted me and wanted to continue conversation. In my mind, I didn't even give her a response because she has to realize that I wake up by 4 a.m. to work. And I wake up by 4 a.m. because people aren't awake. So when people aren't awake, it's less distractions. So the last tip I'll give to you here is have more conversations with different kinds of people. Have more conversations with different kinds of guys. Have more conversations with different kinds of girls, right? Know how people think because the more conversations you have with people, the easier for you to connect dots in your head. It's like, okay. And to be very frank, when I started talking to people, I was much more jittery, I was trying to use cheesy lines I saw in movies until I found the perfect line for me, right? Even though I have nothing to say. My line is, hi, my name is Stone. They could be like, what do you mean by Stone? Oh, Living Stone. I got that line from James Bond. See how movies influence you? So it's that simple. It's like, okay, my name is Stone. And I'm doing it from like, so the energy I give is, I am more mature than you. So I don't have time for games. This is my name. I'm not here to like cheese. And it works almost all the time, right? So again, the last thing I'll say here is a caution. One caution is look for compatibility. If you guys aren't compatible, look for an exit. Don't force jack shit because the more you force it, the dumber you look, the drier and that's why your conversations are very, very dry because you don't even know how to bring out the interest in the other person, and yet you've not yet found compatibility real quick. And one hack I'll say, one thing that's helped me here is learning how to sell, right? Because if you look at it, almost everything that I basically mentioned here boils down to learning how to sell. So if you learn how to sell, guess what? It's easier for you to have conversations because you ask questions, you gather information, you use tonality, you use stories. All these things come together when you learn how to sell. That's why I tell bro, please learn to become a well-rounded man. And one thing that about being a well-rounded man is at some point you learn social skills and you learn how to sell. So my name is Ton Oreye. If you like the ideas that you heard in this video, I want you to share with a fellow brother who you know needs this message. I know you know somebody in your head right now who is always having rusty conversations. Just please send this video to them and hopefully it helps them because that's helped me, that's helped other guys that I speak to. So if you like what you're hearing in this video, please share with them if the ideas resonated with you. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon. And bye for now, brother.